ora, I'm Kelly Swanson-Rowe. Welcome to Destination New Zealand and welcome to the geothermal wonderland of Rotorua. This region was the early birthplace of New Zealand tourism. As far back as the late 1800s, people would flock here to see these great earth forces at work and to soak in the famous thermal hot pools. These days there's all that to see and much, much more. Coming up, we're exploring Rotorua's buried village. We're cooking rainbow trout with the help of Mother Nature.
Not to lose the fish.
We'll enjoy the comforts of one of the region's leading lodges and then take in an incredible view from the rim of a volcano crater. And we'll encounter the steamy vents and the boiling mud pools of Hell's Gate. It's easy to see why Rotorua is one of the most popular tourist towns in the North Island. The natural environment is unique and beautiful. And the town's constructed around an abundance of natural hot springs and thermal areas. In fact, a significant proportion of Rotorua's residents use the geothermal source for home heating. And what a wonderful complement to a day's sightseeing and adventure. Here you can soak and spa to your heart's content. This natural resource was an obvious drawcard for Māori right from the dawning days of New Zealand's civilization in the 14th century. For cooking and for warmth, Rotorua's hot pools virtually eliminated local Māori's dependence on fire. And to this day, there are still a few who rely upon this source for their daily needs. This is the village at the Te Wairoa Thermal Reserve, where the small Māori population used the pools for heating, bathing and cooking, much as their ancestors did. Te Wairoa holds a special place in Rotorua's history. Many of its residents, like Miriana Wycliffe, are direct descendants of the Māori of Te Wairoa. In the 1880s, this little township was a gateway for tourists who flocked to witness what was considered to be the eighth wonder of the world, the pink and white terraces. Of course, no colour photos were ever taken, but these geothermal marvels were naturally hued in vibrant pink and white. In 1886, nature destroyed this, New Zealand's first tourism venture. The massive eruption of nearby Mount Tarawera devastated the terraces, Te Wairoa and much of the countryside, killing 150 people and displacing many. Today you're able to fly over the gaping crater. For over 4 terrifying hours, rocks, ash and boiling mud bombarded the peaceful village. The Māori survivors fled to Te Wairoa, where many of their great-great-grandchildren live to this day. As for Te Wairoa, the ruins slowly emerged from the ashes and became a visitor attraction in their own right. It's called the Buried Village. It's a quiet, peaceful place infused with the emotion of a historic catastrophe. And it's a fitting introduction to Rotorua's past. You can tour the archaeological sites and spend time browsing the artefacts in the Museum of Te Wairoa. And as for your tutor, well, she's the great-great-granddaughter of one of the Pink and White Terrace's most well-loved guides. Miriama, what can you tell me about beautiful Sophia here?
She's my great-great-grandmother. Amazing thing about her, they birthed to 15 children and still looks quite youthful after all of it.
15 children?
Yep.
My goodness. And what was her part in this place?
She was the last guide to actually take the people across to view this eighth wonder of the world, the Pink and White Terraces.
And Guide Sophia, as she was known, was instrumental in saving lives when Mount Tarawera blew.
She was awoken by the rumbles, shaking of the ground. From there she went out to have a look, and as people were running around or running out of their homes, she went out and helped them into her home. And over 50 people took shelter inside her home.
Huru Maika is another buried village tour guide with a family history emanating from this site. So, Huru, this was the place of the high priest, his whare.
Yes.
What can you tell me about him?
Well, he was the tohunga, he was the high priest. He actually predicted that the volcano was going to erupt. On the night of the eruption, he was actually in his home here. It actually came down on top of him. He was buried there for 4 days. The unusual thing is he survived that.
The 110-year-old tauhanga was unearthed by European rescuers, and it's just one of the many stories preserved at Te Wairoa. Oh, the waka!
Yes.
Beautiful.
This is our Māori war canoe.
So how old would this be?
Well, it was built before the eruption of Mount Te Wairoa. They went to war on these just around the coastal areas and in the lakes. I would imagine it's around about 150 years old.
This is like the bell. Excavating Te Wairoa began around the 1930s. Pam McGrath's grandparents ran a nearby tea rooms and were the ones who rediscovered the buried village. So this is the stone storehouse.
Yeah, this was one of the first exhibits that was excavated in 1932, and there's a wee story that goes with this site. Back in those days, my grandparents used to come down here with the boys and have a picnic and enjoy the stream. And one day my nana was sitting on the bank there just scratching around in the mud and discovered these stone carvings there.
Right.
So they rushed back and got the spade and started chipping it away.
Ruin after ruin and household item after household item, Te Wairoa re-emerged to become the attraction it is today. It's a place for quiet contemplation for what once was, made all the richer by the lineage of people here who ensure the buried village lives on.
To be given the opportunity to come back here and walk in the footsteps of my great-great-grandmother, one word to describe it would be honoured. Really honoured to be doing it.
Still to